So thank you everybody for being here. I just before we start the conversation with Gerardo Contino, I want to thank Olga Perez, and the KAIK for helping us to put this together. All the um, all the films that are coming from the archives of the KAIK. We subtitled this copy just for you to enjoy, and it was a newly restored copy that we got. So thank you so much, and this is some master. I haven't seen it in the big screen for a long time, so it was a really an amazing thing. And thank you to Gerardo Contino. I mentioned that this is also part of the Nuestros Sonidos Festival, that we were invited by Carnegie Hall to participate, and so we are grateful for that opportunity as well. Saying that, I just want to ask you the first question, and thank you, Gerardo. Is an amazing musician, but also he has studied music, and especially Cuban music and the influence that have in all of that through this year. So thank you, Gerardo, for being here with us and being willing to participate. And my first question is, you see that many rhythms in the Caribbean have been, part of us, but why do you think it's that Cuban music and Cuban rhythms had stay and are so current even now when I see this 60 years later, and you can still feel like it's the same than now?
First of all, we are proud to be Cubans. It doesn't matter the difference that we have since the colony, but we always have been proud of our culture, and that is something that has kept the fire of the Cuban music for so long.
And with the all the influences, because it's not only the Afro influences, you can see some of them are the Europeans and all of that in the danzón, in the the Cuban song and all of that. Um, how is it for you as a musician that even trying to incorporate that in your music and to make it, all of these kind of masters to come to you and not be overwhelmed, but try to make it something different, or be part of?
So Cuba is a melting pot. It's like New York City. That's why I love New York. Give it up for New York City. Aplauso, aplauso, Nueva York. So I was lucky to work with some of those masters, and I realized that the difference that we have in Cuba from the rest of other countries is that Spaniards fell in love with black people, and they allowed to be to the blacks, to develop their music, to play the tambores, etc. And the poor Spaniards that came to Cuba incorporate the guitar and los campesinos in the fields. They were hanging out together. Therefore, all that influence from Francia, España, Africa, it was what made the Cuban music and the Cuban culture so strong. And for me, I am a lawyer. I studied law in Cuba. However, music has been my passion, and popular music is what drives me. So I was lucky to perform in some of those venues, Jardines de la Tropical, El Náutico, and what you saw in 1960, I had that experience in the 2000, and still people have that energy and that respect for our culture and our music.
Right. Thank you. Questions that you have in the audience, and about what you saw?
The oldest that was shot at. Was that in the 40s too?
The oldest that was shown there, what was it was shot when it was shot? ¿Cuál fue la más vieja que si la que se filmó fue en los 40?
No, no,
No, it
no.
was
No, that
60s.
was in the 60s.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That was, I know, I have a very good friend, he's a filmmaker, and he was talking to me about this documentary. I'm so happy that I came to the Havana Film Festival. This is my first time watching this. Because in the Cuban television, sometimes they show the small clip of Bola de Nieve, showing his house, etc. And I never saw that. So my friend told me that this was like the first time that someone with a camera went and documented the movement that was happening. That was after the revolution. Yeah, and I to see Tatawines young playing the congas, to see the great Elena Urque, and to see Chapotin and all of they are the trailblazers. They create and build the foundation, and thanks to them, I've been for 15 years in New York City singing in Spanish and receiving the love of the Boricuas from Spanish Harlem, of my brothers and sisters from the Bronx, Harlem, and every place that I go and sing Guantanamera, I move mountains, and that was possible because of them. So give it up to them, please.
Yeah. That's true, and that's a masterpiece that you saw. Nosotros la música became kind of that the first documentary that went to the streets and documented all that movement, as Gerardo was saying, and it was amazing.
So, if I understand you correctly, this is more of a survey of one period in 1964, but was it mostly a survey? Excuse me, mostly a survey of different towns and cities and collecting the music from the streets of throughout Cuba, or is it focused on a particular region?
That's a very good question. That is, as I can understand, coming from Cuba, he was showing the different rhythms and the musical movement that was happening. That's why you saw Bola de Nieve. Bola de Nieve come from the MUSICA theater with Rita Montaner. And Bola used to perform musical theater, but also he loved to do those small meetings, as you saw with friends, and it was like descarga, like jam, And it's so interesting because right now, after COVID, I've been doing that a lot with my very good friend, Dairamir Gonzalez. I saw his picture of dancing. Dairamir. And we have been doing this in small houses with friends. And then you have the influence of rumba. That's why they start with Conjunto Folclórico Nacional. And then you move to Santiago de Cuba, and you have La Conga, Santiaguera, with the Chinese trumpet. Da, 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 da. And that is something magical. Then they jump into the spirituality, and with the Congo dance, and you see people getting possessed, and they go to the solar, and in the solar, they show you the rumba. And then Elena Urque in the theater, Señora Sentimiento, she was a great singer. So it's like they pass through different things.
Celeste Mendoza too.
Celeste.
It was more than Havana. It was all throughout areas of Cuba by the rhythm. That was the way they were moving, was to capture the different rhythms. Whether it was a small town, whether it was a small neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you see La Trova, when the guys with the guitar, that from my generation, I was born in 1982. So during those years, I thought that the Trova was Silvio Rodriguez and Pablo Milanés, so I didn't know. And they called La Nueva, but there was they didn't mention those guys, and for me it was like, okay, I just see two young guys with guitars, but that La Trova comes from El Campo, from the countryside, and you see black people performing that. And for me, it's, I'm very happy that I saw that. That gave me more hope.
Yeah, and also this was after the revolution that all people came together, and it was like all the expressions were shown as a really proud, as you say, that you are very proud, and you can feel when you go to Havana, you go to Cuba, and also the access that people like musicians there, even they are big stars, they are in the streets and they come and play like these Celeste Mendoza in those, and that's the beauty of, I think, of how the music, the Cuban music, has been preserved. Any other question that you have? Yes.
Un recuerdo de Louis Armstrong, you know, en su manera, en su risa, en su presentar con la audiencia. It was very, I just kept seeing Louis Armstrong, you know.
You have to come to see on Wednesday. We are going to show a documentary, mini documentary on Bora and Nieve, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it was just so much fun to watch. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he was a great performer, and to as a singer and as an artist, you need to have a strong control of yourself to perform a song by Bola de Nieve, because he was not a great singer, but every time he opened his mouth, tears come from your eyes. So I did a show at Blue Alley, Washington D.C., and I paid tribute to Bola de Nieve, and the song is No Puedo Ser Feliz. And it took me a while to get ready, because to understand all the pain that Bola had inside. He was gay. That time Cuba couldn't be gay. But yesterday I saw a documentary here of gay people. Yeah. And he was gay, he was black, but he was so talented. He came from Guanabacoa. He didn't have a great education. However, his refuge was the piano, was the music. So when that guy opened his mouth, what you hear is pure love. That was Rita Montaner, because he was black. So that was like, yeah.
Just
it's not really a question, but it's one of my favorite scenes ever in any movie is the dance scene, the long salsa, the long dance scene. It's just so beautiful. But one of the interesting things, and I'd like to, ask you, well, it is a question really, is that when bands were playing in Cuba, they were playing the music and the dance, so that people were dancing, and what people wanted to dance to began to influence the way the musicians played. So I always think that's fascinating about Cuban music and why it evolved in that way with it was something that was a communication between the band, the music and the audience and the dancers. And they said, we've got to, it was a bit slow. And then they said, right, we need to pick this up because they want to really move, and how that affected how the music developed. And I always love that, that the dance and the music is so connected.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is one thing that we, the musicians that we work on, our focus is popular music. You learn that from day one. When I was in the University of Havana, I made a decision to also be a singer. So I went and see José Luis Cortés, El Tosco, the leader of NG La Banda. And with him, I learned how to, when you are on stage and in a place like La Tropical, was the last venue, you need to be strong and you need to make people dance. Because the same people, it's like Festival Viña del Mar. They say, woo, bájalo, bájalo, bájalo. So for a singer, they call us in Cuba, we are the pitchers. We are the pitcher. So, and the band also, we are the ones that make the musician perform well. Because if we don't do, if we do not interact, that's why we specialize on call and response. This is how Cuban music is. Unlike the new salsa movement that the brothers from Spanish Harlem create, Tito Puente, Fania, etc. I had the honor to perform with Larry Haldo. And for me was confused because the salseros just sonean. Sonero, Da, 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 da. And people are there. But no, with us, Cuban, we need, oh yeah, dance. And we love to interact with people. And that is one main thing that we have in our music. And I wish that we never will lose that. Doesn't matter in which room we are, rich, not rich, we should not lose that.
What one question that I have for you is that watching this documentary, what would you love to have done before? Like, what singer or what musician you would love to play with and be part of, like that dream for you when you were watching this? Right.
I am a very I am an atypical Cuban singer because the first song that I learned was Ave Maria, and I put a towel on the deodorant because at that time I saw tenors; they were white, you know. So and like with I was 7 years old, and I was like, Ave Maria. My abuela, my grandmother lived in a solar, like the one that you saw. And everybody in the solar was looking at me like, he's gonna be a tenor. So, but then, in order for me to understand the Afro-Cuban religion, I need to get familiar with the rumba. In order for me to understand how I could move as smooth as those great dancers that you saw, then I need to learn the Afro-Cuban movement. In order for me to understand how to project my voice, I need to learn from Elena Burke, Omar Portuondo, you know, in order for me to understand how to make people dance, how to make people happy, I need to learn from Benny Moré. So if I had the opportunity to be in 1960s with all of them, because in 5 years that I was in Cuba, I had the honor to be with Paulo F.G., with Omar Portuondo, with Fran Fernandez, with Jose Luis Cortez, Papo Angarica. So I moved from the classical to the contemporary to the popular to the folklore. And right now, I had the honor to do a project with Muñequitos de Matanzas. 70 years old they have been in this business. And I took Muñequitos de Matanzas, I took Digna Guerra, the National Cuba Chorus, Maestra Digna Guerra, and I put them together with spoken words. I took African Americans to Cuba and we did poetry. So I always love to have like a painting. This is how I see art, because we as musicians and as an artist, we are the doctors of the society. And art is the cure.
Yes.
Is the cure.
Yeah. We have one more question. Let's ask her. I will go back to you. Let's get it.
Hi, the name of the movie is Nosotros, la música, we the music. What does the word nosotros refer to? Is it the Cuban people?
I think so, yes. Yes.
It's what I think I got that message from the movie that the music is in everyone. It's in part of everyone's life. It's in the streets. It's, where they live. And the musicians come to the people go to the musicians. And I think that's a beautiful name for the movie.
And through the music, we have been able to come across our social difference, political difference. Because when I was in the University of Havana, that they were the people who love La Trova and the intellectuals that were always reading in the park, and they are, oh, no. When Paulo F.G. or one of those timberos came to play, you saw everybody, the white, the browns, and this is how we are in Cuba. Doesn't matter the kind of, status that you have in society. When there is live music, everybody comes together. So.
Just the last question.
What were you studying in the University of Havana, and how did you incorporate that into your life experience going forward? Because you referenced it, but I want to hear a little more about it.
Well, in the University of Havana, I studied law. I became a lawyer because my dad wanted me to be a lawyer. And I'm glad that I did. Then I came to the U.S. I did my master in intellectual property because while I was studying in Cuba law and at the same time performing with bands, I was realizing that my colleagues, every time they had a tour, the promoters were taking advantage of them. Every time they were out there performing, someone who made them sign a contract for peanuts was selling their music and they weren't getting paid. So I have been able to be a consultor and as friends, as Bola and Nieve, as someone mentioned at the beginning, that Benny More didn't consider himself an artist. The people made him, So for me, when I talk to my guys and to my friends, I know, oh, Gerardo the lawyer. They call me that. They were the ones that called me that. But no, I talk to them as a friend who had the opportunity to study and to understand the law and the business side. And this is how I put my humble service on to help them. Yes.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gerardo. It was a wonderful conversation.